Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for making some time today and joining us for faculty office hours for dance and theater. My name is Grant Sewell. I use he, him pronouns. I'm in the admissions office. I'm an associate dean of admission and here to just kind of make sure we hopefully speak to a lot of the questions you might have about some of the different academic programs at Reed, in particular dance and theater, community, and just kind of help you along your way as you're getting to know more about the community. And to do that, we're also joined by two of our wonderful faculty members. We have Victoria and Kate, and I'll turn it over to them in just a second to provide an introduction and get us started. But what we plan to do is hopefully share some helpful information with you about the programs here. But we also want to speak to the questions that you have as well. And so one of the best ways to ask those questions would be through the Zoom chat box, which I would imagine most people are pretty familiar with the Zoom chat box at this point, but kind of towards the bottom center of your screen, you can put the questions that you have in there and we'll kind of keep an eye on the chat box and work to answer as many of those as we can with the time that we have. You might have also seen that you came in muted, and that's also just to make sure we can kind of focus on the chat box to see the questions that are coming in and to make sure we can share this recording as well after our session. With all that in mind, again, really glad that you're here today, and I will go ahead and turn it over to Kate and Victoria to get us started.
Oh, great. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'll get started. My name is Kate Duffly. I use she, her pronouns. I teach in the theater department here at Reed College. And yeah, I'm really excited to hear your questions, but I'm happy to just start off by telling you a little bit about our program. We are a theater department that really makes sense in a liberal arts environment. We are asking big questions about, what does it mean to make theater now? What can we learn from our theatrical history? Why do we tell these stories? What are the various ways that we can tell them? We kind of are doing our work both inside of theater spaces, in rehearsal rooms, and also in kind of an academic classroom setting. So we're reading and analyzing texts, and we're also engaging in a more embodied way with performance. We have classes in playwriting and directing, stage design and acting, theater history classes, as well as some performance studies classes, which is a more kind of interdisciplinary approach to thinking about human behavior through the lens of performance. We have some main stage productions. So we offer 2 main stage productions a year, one in the fall and one in the spring, and those are faculty directed. And we have our student thesis productions happen primarily in the spring. So as many of you probably have heard, we have, everyone at Reed does a senior thesis. In the theater department, some students also are involved in a theatrical production. And those are slightly smaller scale projects that happen in the spring. And they are student directed, student acted, student designed projects. Yeah, there's also opportunities for paid work in our scene shop and costume shop, and some crewing of shows that happens kind of through those shops as well. Yeah, and again, I'm really happy to have you all here and happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, thank you so much, Kate. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here with you and sharing virtual space. My name is Victoria Fortuna. My pronouns are she, her, and I teach in the dance department here at Reed. And sort of similarly to what Kate was describing with the theater program, the dance program at Reed, which does offer both a major and a minor, is very much kind of part of the liberal arts tradition, where we're really interested in embodiment as a form of thinking and thinking as an embodied activity. And that's something you would experience across classes that are focused on the spectrum from kind of studio and technique acquisition, sort of through classes that are more kind of conference reading, writing based. And our major tracks also reflect that. So we have opportunities to focus in performance and creation, as well as more scholarly approaches to dance. And I won't go into a ton of detail about the major or minor programs, but if anyone has specific questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them. We offer a breadth of dance forms. So many of the core faculty taught courses are focused in the modern and contemporary dance tradition, but also include courses in dances of Africa and the African diaspora. We also offer multiple levels of ballet, multiple levels of hip hop, and tango as well, alongside courses that are more, so those courses tend to be more practice based. We also offer courses in community dance and collective creation, courses that explore dance from cultural and historical standpoints, so focused on dance, gender and sexuality, histories around dance and race, etc. Similarly, we have a couple different performance opportunities throughout the year. So the department produces two main concerts, one at the end of the fall semester, one at the end of the spring semester. And that includes student and faculty work that comes out of classes, as well as student work that's auditioned prior to those concerts. And we typically produce 1 to 2 thesis concerts a year as well. So all Reed students, as you know, as you likely know, complete theses, and in dance that often includes a performance component. The other cool thing about our program is we are lucky enough to have a steady stream of guests artists that join us, both in the context of classes and then as part of longer residencies. So in the past year, some really exciting folks who we've had with us include Urban Bushwomen, Kyle Abraham a couple years back now, Reggie Wilson, so really exciting choreographers that students get to work with. And then lastly, I'll just add, and this applies for both theater and dance, we share a really beautiful, relatively new building. We have beautiful facilities. We've got state-of-the-art theaters and rehearsal spaces and dance studios that really are here to support students' work in any form that it comes, whether you're a major or not, right?
Thank you both for sharing a little bit more with us to kind of give a good foundation for both of the programs. I know you both kind of mentioned some of the different classes that are available to students, but I don't know if you both might be able to share just some of the classes maybe you're teaching this year or this spring, or just kind of what that might look like.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Boy, last semester already feels so far away, so I'll start with this semester. So this semester I'm teaching a devising class and a community-based performance class. So in my devising class, I don't know if any of you have had the chance to make work through a devised method, but essentially it's performance creation with an ensemble. So it's collaborative creation. That does not start with a play text. So you might start with an idea or a question, and then devise a theatrical performance with an ensemble together. And so that class is we're kind of using those techniques. And one of the cool things about that class is that it is really kind of shifting the focus away from a really text-based approach to performance to one that can include that includes embodiment and kind of thinking visually about performance, and is a very collaborative method to performance creation. And so that's one of the other skills that we're building in that class is kind of even more deeply collaborative than theater already is. And the other class I'm teaching is a community-based performance class. And we are this semester, the group has decided to engage with students with disabilities, both invisible and visible at Reed College. And so we've been engaging with the sort of broader community at Reed to ask questions around that are pertinent to the disability community at Reed, and then holding community sessions with that community. These are led by students. They're kind of building their skills and techniques to hold these, facilitate these community sessions, and then we'll be moving towards creating a performance kind of with and about the community that we've decided to engage.
Awesome. Sure. And I'm happy to share a little. Kate, were you done? Sorry.
Yeah, I could talk about the fall semester too, but go ahead, Victoria.
Okay. Are you sure? I didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be very brief.
Oh.
I'm just teaching one class this spring. It's an upper level research seminar, so it's a required class for dance majors, but we also get students from lots of other disciplines who are just interested in the topic, which is dance ethnography. So ethnography as a method is usually associated with anthropology and sociology, but within the field of dance studies, which we can broadly define as critical approaches to the study of dance, ethnography is used as a kind of mode to understand dance as culture, right? So that can include interviewing people, it can include participant observation, it can include using your own dancing body as a way to present your research findings, as well as a kind of like source of evidence for your research. And what's probably more exciting would be to hear the research projects that students are working on. So one student, their ethnography is based at a local tango club, and they're looking at queer participants in that space, which is an otherwise kind of heteronormative space. Another student is looking at community making in techno dance nightclub spaces. And another student is looking at gender roles in Highland Scottish dance. So like a very broad variety of topics get explored in that class.
I'm happy to talk about the fall classes, but I also see there's some questions in the chat. Grant, I don't know what.
I think whatever way you'd like to proceed is totally fine.
Okay, I'll say briefly, just to give you a sense of some of the other classes that we offer. We have a junior seminar class for theater majors. And in that class, we focus on kind of building some of the research and writing skills that students will be needing to complete their senior thesis research project. So whether or not you have a performance project at Reed, you still have a meaty written component. And so the junior seminar class is really doing the work to help support students be prepared to undertake that big research project. And then I also teach the directing class in the fall, and that is an opportunity both for students to build their skills in directing, and it provides some acting opportunities for students who are interested in acting, whether you're a major or not. And I can actually reply that to the first question that I see in the chat about whether the two main stage performances are open to all or only those currently enrolled in theater classes. So all of the performances that we stage are open to anybody. You do not need to be a theater major. So the directing class that I just mentioned, there's kind of a short rehearsal period at the end of the fall semester. That's really popular for students to kind of sometimes is like a little segue into other larger scale projects in the department. And then there are these main stage projects and the thesis projects. Nobody needs to be a major. Anybody is welcome. No experience necessary. In fact, we really we've over the years really made an effort to demonstrate to the community that we're really open to anybody auditioning. I'm really happy to have first timers and people who have a lot of experience to come.
Sorry, I was having a challenge getting unmuted there, but I can also speak to Kira L's question around, and I mean, this is something that is very present, I think, for both theater and dance kind of across categories, right? So thinking about race, gender, sexuality, ability, and class, right? Maybe as well as kind of along linguistic lines. And this is something, at least in the dance department, right, in terms of course content. So we've done a lot of work, I would say, over the past 10 years to decenter the emphasis on the Western concert tradition, right, which gets aligned with whiteness. So that has included like a new faculty member whose work is based in African diasporic dance forms, right? And so at a content level, right, that's really present. Also in other classes that we offer that focus specifically around issues of race and ethnicity, there is actually a dance and comparative race and ethnicity studies degree. One of the courses within that is a course I teach called Dancing Latinx America, which is a course kind of based like a hemispheric approach to thinking about Latina and Latin American identity in dance. That's my research area. And then in terms of kind of like not just content, right, but thinking about inclusion and access for our courses, something that is kind of really integral to our program is kind of breaking down or breaking away from a very exclusionary kind of approach to dance that's really based on you having the right kind of body, your body looking a particular way, you having certain kinds of economic access to certain dance forms. And there's always more work to do around that, but to the greatest degree possible, we want our studio and our studies courses to be as inclusive as possible. So there's no auditions, for example. It's not expected that you come to read with a lot of dance background for a lot of our courses. Yeah, so I hope that that speaks to the question in some way. And then I'll just speak quickly to Annie's question and maybe hand things over to Kate. But I believe this is true for both theater and dance. So thesis performances often do have auditions where folks across classes are welcome to participate. So yeah, from freshman year, we've had students dance in senior thesis shows that are ensemble based. So yes, those opportunities definitely exist.
Yep, and for the theater department, we've had first years perform in our main stage productions as well. They're really open our auditions. We do have auditions, but we've kind of de-emphasized the audition approach where you have to have a monologue. Some of you might be familiar with that. So we don't require our students to have a monologue. Some of our theater majors are kind of working on that as part of their training, and so they may come with a monologue, a prepared monologue. But we always have, you know, options available for students who just show up and want to audition. Sometimes we'll say, tell us a story. You know, we want to really make the opportunities available to as many people as possible. And yeah, I wanted to answer the question too about Kira's question about engaging with the representation of minorities. I think, you know, theater is also a place where representation is really important, a lot of sort of stage and visible representation, and is kind of a place where we can really interrogate questions around racial representation and gender representation, and sort of through, in a lot of our classes, we're kind of looking at the ways that performance can reiterate problematic representations, can be spaces of opportunity that can open up new modes of representation, or kind of thinking differently about how we present identities. We offer courses in gender and theater, race and identity in American theater is a course that I teach. We offer a class called Play Lab, which is really focused on contemporary plays, primarily by playwrights of color. And in that class, one of our newer faculty members, Barbie Wu, teaches that class, and really you're just reading a lot of plays together and discussing those. Also, you know, we talk a lot about what are the stories that we are putting on our stages, and you know, how can we kind of use the opportunity of performance to tell stories that are lesser told. Who are the playwrights that we're teaching in our classes, and choosing to direct. So yeah, it's an active question, I think, for us in the department and with our students. There's a question about how often do dance and theater majors work together in opportunities or classes, also the music department.
I mean, I feel like a place I see this happen a lot is in thesis productions, right? I'm thinking about, you know, one of Dance's current seniors. A lot of theater majors and folks kind of heavily involved in the theater department were really involved in that production, especially around like technical theater elements, like design elements and things we maybe don't have as well represented in the dance department. Also, there is a kind of standing tradition of music majors or just music students composing original scores for dance thesis productions. And that's always a really lovely opportunity to see that collaboration happen, and just sort of a beautiful, yeah, opportunity for students to get to create work together. So that's a place where I see it. But faculty also collaborate, right? We're also, you know, we share a faculty pod, and, you know, are often in conversation with each other about our own work that informs our teaching, but is maybe also happening outside of Reed.
Yeah, I'll just affirm that. What Victoria said, I see that too in our theater thesis productions. There's a lot of collaboration among students. We just had a production where there was original music composed for a theatrical production. I directed a play last fall I had a dance student do the choreography or was assisting our choreographer for that show, but ended up coming and doing a lot of work directly with the students when the choreographer wasn't present at rehearsals.
Cool. I can just kind of quickly answer maybe the one about student productions not connected to academics. I mean, this is something I know in dance we'd love to see. We don't see a lot of student productions, right, that are fully student led, but there are really active clubs that are, maybe having more informal performances or, sharing their work with the community in other ways. So Tango Club is really active on the dance side of things, as is the K-pop club.
That's cool. There are, this year, and I think last year, we've had a lot of students producing their own plays outside of the theater department. I have somebody working on a production of King Lear right now. Somebody is directing a play that they wrote. I think last semester, somebody directed Our Town. So a lot of theater students and what I call theater adjacent students, so folks who come through our classes or are on our stages, but maybe are not majors, but we see a lot of them. They're definitely a part of our theater department community. We're involved in some of those projects. So we hear about them, we fully support them. I mean, like in spirit, support them. Sometimes we support with like offering the use of our spaces, whether it be rehearsal spaces. And I think that there's a question about rehearsals space. Are there studios and performance space available to students to practice not during rehearsal times? So for theater, yes, there are. We have a sign-up sheet for that. We give some priority to students who are in like a directing class and they need to check out that space for directing, but pretty much anybody, whether you're a major or not, you can check out those spaces.
And that's a yes from dance as well. We also have a sign-up system. Again, priorities given if you're enrolled in a class and have like a choreography assignment, for example. But yes, studios are available for rehearsal. And I'll also address the dance shoe question. So shoes, that's not been a need that we've seen in terms of our current offerings. We don't offer tap currently. There's huge demand for it. We're working on it. It's a question of a floor. We need a wooden floor to be able to offer that, but that's certainly something we would revisit should we be able to offer that. What we do offer is we have a costume collection, right? So for students involved, both in like student run or kind of faculty run performances. We have a collection, right? Mostly of thrifted, accumulated things across the years, also from faculty members' previous performances that students are welcome to check out and use. And included within there are jazz shoes, there's ballet slippers, there's all tango shoes, there's all sorts of different dance shoes. There probably is even a pair or two of tap shoes hiding in the costume collection. Yeah.
I'm so excited to answer this question about dramaturgy. Do you offer courses in dramaturgy and are student plays ever performed? Yes, and yes. There maybe should come, if you know what dramaturgy is, it should come as no surprise that it is very popular at Reed. So a dramaturg is somebody who works with the production, often will do kind of research into the project, into the production, will supplement some research about whatever the playwright or the genre or the play itself or aspects of the play, and is like another pair of eyes, often in rehearsal, working with the director and the actors. We offer dramaturgy class that is super popular. I don't know of another department that has so many dramaturgs. Like for a production, I once had 5 dramaturgs, which is too many dramaturgs, if you ask me. But just to say that dramaturgy absolutely is something we offer and are very enthusiastic about. How would I characterize the theater community and broader performing arts community at Reed? We have a really great community, I would say. We have students who are super feel, to me, connected to the department and to each other, are enthusiastic about just all aspects of the work that we're doing, feel a lot of ownership over kind of how things go in the department. We just went through a hiring process, and there were so many students really excited to engage with us in that process of hiring new faculty and meeting with that person and sharing their insight into that new hire. We are, I don't know if you mean broader community in Portland, but I'll speak to that, and maybe Victoria can also speak to performing arts community also at Reed. All of the theater faculty are connected to theaters and performance artists in town and outside of Oregon, and are really happy to help students make connections to that community here in town. We take students with us to go see shows, and we invite folks in town often to come visit our classes and give workshops. There are students, I'm just really excited often when I hear students tell me that they've organized themselves to go see shows in town. And so they're often doing that, giving each other rides and, announcing in class exciting things that other people might be interested in going to see.
Yeah, and I would just echo what Kate said. I think that the sense of community for the performing arts and for dance, I think is one of my favorite parts of being at Reed and working at Reed. And I, what is impressive to me, I think, is seeing students who, and we have a large number, especially I think it's probably true for theater too, but a large number of students whose major is something else, right? Whether it be STEM or in lit and lang, whatever the case may be, but who take a lot of dance classes. They might be minors, they might not be, feel an equal amount of membership and kind of ownership, right, over the dance community as those who are majors. And sort of regardless of where people ultimately find themselves disciplinarily in terms of where you major, students have kind of created bonds and artistic partnerships and relationships that go far beyond Reed. So that's really, I think, a good testament to kind of how the community functions, and is really lovely to witness. Yeah. And then I'll say, in terms of the average number of classes, I feel like both dance and theater are somewhere around 9 or 10, I think, is like our requirements. There's usually a number, right? So both like what a major, the number of courses within a major, I think it's 10 for dance. But then, depending on how people plan out their general education requirements and things like that, might end up taking more classes in the major if they have the space and ability to do it.
Yeah, we have 11 units in our major, and that includes 2 for thesis. I didn't answer the part of the question, the dramaturgy question. I got so excited about it, about whether student plays are ever performed. And so I just wanted to loop back to that one. So there's a playwriting class, and great at the end of that semester, whenever that class is offered, there's a big kind of play reading performance of segments of all of the playwrights who've created work over the course of that semester. So that's like an event that people really like to attend. And then for senior year thesis, we've had students who have done a playwriting thesis, and their play has been performed. Yeah, so yes, and I'd love to see that even more. Like, I'd love to see the groups sort of who are external to the department making work. I'd love to see more student work performed. We definitely are open to it and have a lot of opportunities for it.
I wonder if the question about work, yeah, so and Kate, I wonder if this is connected maybe to what you were saying about the ability to work in the theater. I'm sorry, in the shop. I mean, in dance, we do also have jobs available. We have production assistant jobs, communications assistants, and things like that. And the way it works at Reed, I'm not sure in terms of targeted for work study students. Essentially, the way it works is departments will post jobs to a centralized system. And then from there, we'll receive applications for those jobs. So I fear I'm not able to answer this question in better detail. Kate, do you have more?
Yeah, I don't know, Grant, do you know actually? But I will say that we hire in the shops, in the costume shop and the scene shop, and those two shops are always trying to kind of hire across the grades. So they are always looking for first years, second years, third years, fourth years. So they're training folks from first and second year to continue on. So they're always looking for new people. I don't think it is only for work study students. And then another job opportunity we have is in the department. We have a theater clerk position that does some scanning work, and other stuff that the faculty may need.
And you both kind of touched on this, but I feel like I might ask for the group. What do you feel might be different or unique about studying, either dance or theater at Reed versus maybe a conservatory or a larger, institution? Just what might be special about that at Reed?
Yeah, I'll start, Victoria. Um, I think for our department, some departments have tracks, some theater departments where you really focus on acting or design or directing or theater history. And we really want our students to kind of work across all of the areas of theater, and there are a lot. But we want a student to graduate from our program having engaged with design and engaged with theater history, to sort of to have had some experience, whether it be acting, performing in a performance, or stage managing even. We want students to be both grappling with some of the kind of theoretical or big questions of the field, and to be doing in an embodied and a practical way, making performance. And I think, we are not a conservatory though, and we're really clear about that. So some student might want to go really deep in lighting design, and they're not going to be able to do that here. We do offer opportunities for lighting design, opportunities to do that work if that's what your interest is. But we don't have like advanced classes in a specific area like lighting design. I think the other thing we offer is we're a relatively small department, and you get a lot of direct communication and direct contact with your faculty. I just had in-person office hours here, and I had a lot of students coming through my door. I really enjoy that about our department. I get to really get a lot of one-on-one time with students in my classes and outside of the classes. And so I guess I'd say that's the other unique or cool thing about our program here at Reed.
Yeah. And I would say maybe on the dance side of things, even though I would say it really is the integration of theory and practice, and how that isn't sort of just a tagline for us, but really is integral to our curriculum and the courses we teach. And even though there's been a little bit of a push toward that in other contexts, I think there's still this idea that you're either doing practice or you're doing theory, maybe, right? If that side is sort of even represented. But what I really value about our program is the ability to kind of bring those two together in a serious and satisfying way. And I think what we really want for our students is to be able to think about dance as a way of answering the big questions that you have about the world, at its most basic level. Because we do recognize, right, there are real constraints and concerns and financial questions that students come to college with about what would it mean to get a degree in dance or theater or music, or something that doesn't necessarily feel like it's applicable or a direct pathway, right, into a kind of career. So the beauty, I think, of a liberal arts education in the arts is that it is helping you think about the way these things that you might be really passionate about, but also hesitant about, right, in terms of a life beyond college, how they can help you Answer the questions you want to ask. I mean, we have majors who've gone on to be social workers, dance therapists, lawyers. Some are working as independent choreographers and dancers, right? But there are many, many things, right, that you can take with a degree that is asked you to think in these kind of broad ways that Kate is describing, and then can be a way to plot a path that, you know, can look very different for different people.
Thank you both for that. I was going to say, I think the other thing, since just hearing you both talk about, the strong connection you have with your students and, a lot of the meaningful, like one-on-one and kind of smaller environments that you get to work in. I know sometimes our students are kind of curious about, adjusting to the grades, grading and feedback, and just maybe how you see that kind of, operating or working within each of your spaces.
You want to go first, Victoria?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that, I mean, even though students aren't getting like letter or numerical grades consistently, you are still hearing from your professors a lot, right? Usually with narrative feedback. And Reed places a really high value on contact with professors and maintaining an open conversation with your professors. So like we both want to de-emphasize this idea that like a letter grade is everything, but that doesn't mean that you're not getting feedback, and that doesn't mean that you're not in dialogue around how you're doing, and that you'll feel kind of lost and unsure, right? um, so that's an opportunity for you to speak with your individual professors, but also the relationship you'll have with your advisor. So first year students are assigned an advisor, ideally within a major that they think they might major in, sometimes not. And your advisor is also another person. They have access to information that you might not necessarily have, about how you're doing in a course, and they're another person for you to talk to about how you're doing, and they can give you options around how much you want to know, because there are letter grades. If you would like to know them, we can give you the letter grades. It's not that they don't exist. So it's just about knowing you have options and you have people to help you understand those options and navigate them.
I don't really have anything to add. Yes to all of that. And we are giving students feedback in a narrative form in classes and in writing on papers if they're turning in papers. And there are grades that you can have access to if you want. But I think, to Victoria's point, that the direct and kind of regular feedback that you're getting is happening in your class with your faculty, in comments on work. I see some questions in the chat. How do you choose plays for the 2 school-run performances per year? And there's one before that. Sorry, let me get back. How do rehearsals fit around lab-heavy schedules? I don't know about dance, but in theater, we have rehearsals in the evenings we are trying out a schedule right now where we stick to Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings with occasional like occasional weekend performance rehearsals. But we've tried to pull back on the rehearsal hours that we're asking of students, knowing that all of our students have a pretty intensive academic expectations. I don't actually know how it fits with labs, but I know that a lot of the labs are happening during the day and our rehearsals happen in the evening.
Yeah, and for dance, a large amount of rehearsal time is actually your class time. So there's not necessarily a lot of, stuff happening outside of class. For other sorts of things, right? So for audition student pieces or senior thesis rehearsals, it's just a process of the cast kind of figuring out when they're available and working around that. But yeah, I think we try to be mindful of how busy folks are. Yeah, and then it looks like another question here. Can you both touch more on the application or potential audition process as an incoming freshman? So for dance, for classes, we do not have audition processes. So we ask students to kind of go to the class that they think is the right level. If it ends up not being the right level, then a faculty member can help you find the right level. There is an audition process if you would like to put your own piece of choreography in the spring or fall show. And those happen once a semester. You sign up, you come in, we will watch you dance, we'll give you some feedback, and then, you know, your piece will be in the show. And then for thesis performances, the senior will organize a rehearsal, an audition process, and then let students know. But there is no audition process for the major program or for classes.
And for the theater side, we don't have an application or an audition for the major or for classes either. And our audition process for our main stage is quite open. And we like to say, if you want to be involved, you can be involved. You may not get an acting role since those are limited to the ones that we have available. But if you want to be involved, we want to find a role for you. So we have a kind of an open call at the beginning of each semester, sometimes at the end of the fall semester for the spring semester. But in the fall, we'll have an open call. Everybody is invited. If you come, and even if you aren't able to make it and you just get in contact with us, we are happy to try to find a way in for you to be involved in that production. There are auditions for the acting roles. And again, those are pretty open. If you have a monologue already prepared, we're happy to see it. And if you don't have one, we are happy to give you one to use. Yeah. To the question of how do you choose plays for the 2 school run performances, they tend to be directed by the interests of, or to be selected by the interest of the director in conversation with the department, but always kind of considering what are the interests of our students, who are the students that we have kind of interested in, who have expressed interest in performance, if we've kind of got a sense of like, oh, we're always kind of thinking like, what will be compelling to our students to be performing in. We always ask of our students when they propose to do a project, or when we're talking about plays, why this play, why now? That is a question you'll hear us often ask. And we ask that of ourselves too when we're choosing what play to direct. Why this play, why now? Why at this particular moment does it feel important for us to stage this particular play? How will it speak to, in some way, to the moment that we're in? How will it speak to our audience? How will it speak to the students who will be involved in it?
I think we might have time for maybe 2 more questions. And so I've got 2 at the ready here. And I think you both maybe have touched on this a little bit, but it'd be great to hear you expand upon it if you'd like. What do you feel is different about teaching at Reed? What's maybe unique about being a professor here?
The students. For me, it's the students. I think I feel like I love the students that come into my classes are interested in so many things, are excited about learning, I really learned from my students a lot over the years that I've taught here. I feel like I've learned so much from my students. The perspectives that they're bringing in are really valuable. And so it really is this kind of like 2-way conversation, I feel like, when I'm in a classroom. So for me, it's the students always.
Yeah, and I would say yes, so absolutely, both students and then also, so Reed is the smallest place I've ever taught. So I taught previous to being here, I taught at Northwestern and I taught at Oberlin College, and I went to bigger schools myself. And it always impresses me so deeply in our, especially in our kind of reading and writing like conference based classes, like just the depth and commitment of the discussion, right? Like, and it's so serious and engaged in the best possible ways. So it's been really unique for me to kind of be in a teaching environment where people are not just going through the motions, right? I mean, everybody is there, like ready to participate, ready to jump in, and it makes for a very exciting class.
I think we have time for maybe 1 more question. but I'll ask y'all, maybe what's one piece of advice you might have for an incoming readie who's maybe, getting, used to the community, they're in their first semester, maybe just something you'd impart to them.
My advice would be, don't take on too much in your first semester, or even your first year. That there is the required course of Hume is a undertaking. It's sort of an exciting undertaking that also is priming students for being in the conference-based class, and so there's a lot of kind of being in the college classroom skills that are learned in that course. And often students are coming from, your high school schedules are full, like you're taking way more classes in high school kind of per semester than I think would make sense for you to do when you're coming in to read. So I guess I would say that you're going to be super excited and you want to do everything all at once. And my advice would be no need to take it all on right away, that there's so much to take in when you first get here. A lot of it is academic and some of it is social and just the kind of being a college student. There's so much to learn in that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just echo, you do not have to do everything at once. But if you can, I do recommend finding some time to get off campus. I think that, stress culture, which is in no way unique to Reed, is real, right? The feeling that like, you've got to, your peers are amazing, you've got to be amazing, everything has to be, done to the highest level. And it, A, it doesn't, but B, just kind of getting some space and perspective. We're lucky to be an urban campus in the middle of a great city. And there are opportunities that Reed hosts for helping students kind of take advantage of things going on in the city. So I would say every once in a while, like, be sure you've left our immediate lovely campus to just get a little bit of space and breathing room.
Perfect. And I want to offer a tremendous thank you to Victoria and Kate for spending some time with us today to share more about some of the work that they do, some of the work that our students also get to do, and just more about, dance and theater and the community here at Reed. And we'll also have additional sessions like these, over the next few weeks. So tomorrow we'll have opportunities to learn more about like Russian and French, Spanish and humanities. On Saturday, there'll be faculty office hours focused in English and history. So just a lot more ways to continue to get to know more about Reed. And hopefully we spoke to the questions that you have, but if you do have more questions, definitely ways to be able to get in touch with us. Feel free to email us at admission@reed.edu, and we're always happy to help out. With all that in mind, I want to offer just a huge thank you to everyone who was able to join us today, and we all hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Hi all, thank you.